Good day, good day, good day. It's always a pleasure to be here. Praise Yah for granting me days to come here to make another video. Again, this is me, Limakatso Nchingela, and today I'm coming to you with a story Saka Abraham. So it's just fast facts nje about Abraham. Just a snippet nyana. I'm going to do another video that is going to be breaking down some bits and pieces of this video. But yeah, these are the fast facts that I'd like to give to you guys about Abraham's background. Ne? Now, I'm going to be taking from the book of Genesis and mainly the book of Jasher, but then also the book of Enoch and the book of Adam and Eve. So there's actually two facts that I'm going to talk about, but then I'm going to break them down into deeper details. So the question is, for fact one, did you know that Abraham lived with Noah at some point in his life? Yes, Noah, Noah's Ark, that one, yeah. So Abraham was a servant there for some years. And also, fact number two, did you know that when Enoch started his ministry of walking with God and then taking up to heaven, not only was Adam still alive at the time, but this sets the stage for what Abraham would later be as a friend of Yah. Also, on a side note, Cain killed his brother Abel. We all know that, right? But then he also died first before Adam, according to the book of Jasher. Now, this is very much possible considering the fact that at the beginning of days, men lived, up to 900 plus years, just a few decades shy of 1,000 years. So when Adam died at the age of 930, most of his great grandchildren were already born, and yeah, some had already died as well. Now, the background story for this is why was Abraham staying at Noah's place? Because that is the actual fact that I believe most of you do not know. Yeah. So why was Abraham staying at Noah's place? How is that even possible? When did it happen? How did it happen? Okay. Now, this all happened because of Nimrod. Nimrod. The name rings a bell, ne? First things first, who is Nimrod? Who is Noah? Siqale ngoNoah. Noah is the son of Lamech, who is the son of Methuselah, who is the son of Enoch, seventh from Adam, according to Genesis chapter 5, verse 21 to 29. As first prophesied by Enoch, the flood did indeed come to judge the earth, and only Noah, his wife, his three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives, plus the animals that they had in the ark with them survived. After the flood, Noah and his children greatly multiplied until there were many people in the earth. Nimrod is the great grandson of Noah through Ham, and Abraham is Noah's descendant through Shem. Nimrod is popularly known as the king that attempted to build the tower that would reach up to the heavens to come against God. But God confounded them and they scattered, according to the Bible in Genesis chapter 8, verse 10, or in all those chapter Genesis chapter 8, Genesis chapter 9, and Genesis chapter 10, and then some parts of it, Genesis 11 from verse 1 to verse 9. Ne? Now, the Bible tells us that Nimrod was a mighty hunter before Yahuwah and eventually became king because of his strength. But it does not reveal to us the source of his strength like it does. Isn't the case of Samson? We've all heard about Samson, the guy with the hair, the Delilah and the Philistine story that we found that we find in the book of Judges, chapter 16. And then in the book of Judges, chapter 16, verse 17, it reveals to us that the source of Samson's strength was his hair. Ne? It doesn't go into deeper details about, the source of Nimrod's strength in this case, but other manuscripts do. See, back in the Garden of Eden, according to Genesis chapter 3, verse 7, Adam and Eve realized that they were naked after eating of the forbidden fruit. Then they sewed fig trees together. They sewed fig leaves. Yeah. Took the leaves from the fig tree and they sewed them together and made themselves aprons. Notice that this was still inside the garden. They were then kicked out of the garden, and Genesis chapter 3, verse 21 says, unto Adam also and to his wife did Yahuwah Elohim make coats of skin and clothed them. So they made themselves these garments from the fig leaves, but God himself made them coats of skin to clothe them. These coats of skin were passed down from Adam to Seth, to Enoch, and to Methuselah, and eventually to Noah. After Noah inherited the coat, he placed it safely in the ark with him during the flood. But after the flood was past and Noah was still busy with other things, such as releasing the animals, making new places to live, and all that, Ham, one of his sons, Ham, went and stole the coat from the ark. And then Ham is the forefather of Nimrod. Noah, Abraham is the forefather of Shem. Now, this stolen coat was made to cover Adam. The coat that God had made to cover Adam, it was found to possess some supernatural powers as it was made by God himself. It is after this theft that the coat was secretly passed down to Nimrod through his father, but Nimrod discovered the strength that he had when he had the coat, so much so that he just could not resist it. He started rising up against his own brethren, because of the power that he now possessed. That is how he became a powerful warrior. That is the source of his strength. That is how he became a mighty hunter, according to Genesis and according to the book of Jasher. He had to wear that coat in order to maintain his power. So Nimrod is also the father of the evil trinity, which includes Father God, Mother God, and Son God, as he was big on idol worship. This is where we see instances like the Catholics worshipping Mary, Oh Hail Mary, Mother of God, Queen Madonna, Goddess Diana of the Roman mythology, and the rest of them. But more on that topic, some other time when we discuss Nimrod specifically. Back to Noah and Abraham. Now, Terah, Abraham's father, was the right-hand man of Nimrod due to his loyalty and devotion to him and his gods. This was back before the Tower of Babel, and Terah, Abraham's father, still had 2 sons at the time, but Abraham was not born yet. Eventually, Terah's wife conceived Abraham, and the night that Abraham was born, Terah was relieved of his duties so that he could be present at the birth of his son. Now, since Terah was a very respectable man at the palace, some other people were also awaiting the birth of his child with him in order to rejoice with him. The book of Jasher, chapter 8, says, "And it was in the night that Abraham was born, that all the servants of Terah and all the wise men of Nimrod and his conjurers came and ate and drank in the house of Terah, and they rejoiced with him on that night. And when all the wise men and conjurers went out from the house of Terah, they lifted up their eyes toward heaven that night to look at the stars. And they saw, and behold, one very large star came from the east and ran in the heavens and swallowed up the 4 stars from the 4 sides of the heavens. And all the wise men of the king and his conjurers were astonished at the sight. And the sages understood this matter, and they knew its import. And they said to each other, This only betokens the child that has been born to Terah this night, who will grow up and be fruitful and multiply and possess all the earth, he and his children forever. And he and his seed will slay great kings and inherit their lands. And the wise men and conjurers went home that night, and in the morning all these wise men and conjurers rose up early and assembled in an appointed house. And they spoke and said to each other, Behold, the sight that we saw last night is hidden from the king. It has not been made known to him. And should this thing get known to the king in the later days, he will say to us, Why have you concealed this matter from me? And then shall we all suffer death. Therefore now, let us go and tell the king the sight which we saw, and the interpretation thereof, and we shall then remain clear." Okay, so that is from the book of Jasher, or chapter 8. So what that passage is saying is, a big bright star appeared at the night of Abraham's birth. The star became a shooting star that swirled around the sky to consume other stars, and it got bigger from doing that. The wise men understood this to mean that the newborn will be very great. He and his descendants will conquer the world and they will be enlarged and much populated. They went to tell the king this, the king being Nimrod, so that the king doesn't find out on his own and accuse them of concealing this matter to them. And as expected, the king sought to kill the newborn baby Abraham. At the time, he was named Abram and not Abraham, as his name was later changed by Yah. Terah was called to the palace by Unimrod, so that Unimrod could, confront him about this, ask him about, what happened that night. And then Nimrod plainly told him to bring his son so that he may be put to death due to the words of the sages. After a short altercation with Unimrod, Terah was forced to bring Abraham after 3 days. But Terah had a maid servant that worked in their house that had also given birth. So in those 3 days, he arranged a hiding place in a cave for Abraham and his mother that nobody knew of, not even if family, since everybody was related to everyone at the time after the flood. So only Abraham and his wife knew the cave where they were hiding. So Terah went and hid his wife and child and swapped to Abraham for the maidservant's child instead. So the maidservant also gave birth to a boy. Yeah, so that became let's say a favor to Terah. So then he swapped the children, he took the maidservant's child, and then when immediately when Terah gave the baby to Nimrod personally murdered him in front of Terah right in the palace, thinking that the baby was Abraham. He killed the child by dashing him to the floor with his head, using all his might, according to the book of Jasher. Now, Nimrod, remember, was a really strong guy, and dashing an infant's head to the floor with all his power like that, it's just a terrible thing, and it just really tells you how evil Nimrod actually was. So, Nimrod, by the way, Nimrod literally means rebellion in Hebrew. Yeah, just so you know. Now, for a time, Abraham and his mother, well, at the time it was still Abram, he lived with his mother in the cave until Abram grew bigger and the cave couldn't contain him anymore. That is when Terah, Abraham's father, thought of Noah, his great grandfather of up to 7 generations, as the only person that he could trust with his son's life. It was how, therefore, that Abraham came to live with Noah and Shem as a servant, people not knowing his true identity as he was learning Yahuwah's statutes, judgments, and ordinances. Abraham was only 3 years old when he moved in with Noah and Shem, and they lived together for the next 39 years until Abraham was 42 years old. The book of Jasher, chapter 9, verse 5 and verse 6 reads, And when Abraham came out from the cave, he went to Noah and his son Shem, and he remained with them to learn the instructions of the Elohim and his ways. And no man knew where Abram was. And Abram served Noah and Shem his son for a long time. Abram was in Noah's house 39 years, and Abram knew Yahuwah from 3 years old and went in the ways of Yahuwah until the day of his death, as Noah and his son Shem had taught him. And all the sons of the earth in those days greatly transgressed against Yahuwah, and they rebelled against him, and they served other gods, lawmakers, and judges. And they forgot Yahuwah who had created them in the earth. And the inhabitants of the earth made unto themselves at that time every man his god, god of wood and stone, which could neither speak, hear, nor deliver. And the sons of men served them, and they became their gods. You would think that humans would repent after the flood and not return to evil, but very soon after the flood, they went back to doing the very same evil that brought the wrath of God towards them. It was so soon that even all the people that were in the ark, they were still alive. Noah was still alive. His children, his sons, they were still alive. People who were in the ark. Yeah. So they just went back to all that evil. So we can see from this story that God's plan was made manifest as nobody discovered Noah while he was in the cave. And even in Noah's house, no one suspected anything. In fact, it is written in the book of Jasher that after Nimrod married that baby, whom he thought was Abram, everybody just completely forgot about the whole situation. Even the sages, even those wise men that saw the stars, they forgot and they just moved on with their lives as if nothing happened. So much so that they even failed to inquire suspiciously about about Sarah's wife who was with Abraham in the cave. They even forgot about her, and all those suspicious activities with time, and things are not the same in Sarah's house. No, they just forgot. So this is how Yahuwah protected Abraham and his mother by letting them out of the minds of the people, especially out of the mind of Nimrod. Now, Abraham grew up, to be strong and with much knowledge and wisdom in Noah's house, behlala noShem. And Sarah continued serving other gods. And Abraham found this an insult to his father himself, as he is the one that made those gods from wood and stone. And therefore, Abraham felt that those gods should be worshipping his father instead, because, it was his father that made them. Yabo? So one day he asked his mother to help him to cook a nice feast to sacrifice to his father's gods' name. And then he also asked his father, to enter the chambers where the gods are so he can make sacrifice to them. Now, his parents, Abraham's parents, were very pleased by this. So Abraham's mom hastened to prepare the food while his father showed him which God is which, and then he left them to do his thing. After the idols obviously did not eat of any of the food. So eventually Abraham did bring the food, to the idols. So obviously, they're wood and stone. They can't eat, they can't reach out their hands, to take the food or anything like that. And then Abraham observed this and, he tried saying some things. Oh, come take this food, oh gods, I've sacrificed to you and things like that. But then the woods and stone, they were just, yeah, they can neither speak nor move, no, not do anything. And then Abraham, yeah, he got really upset. He got really upset by this. And then he went on and took a hammer and he beat the gods and he beat the gods, he beat the gods. And then there was a bigger god, yeah, Lapai, that was supposed to be like, I don't know, like a chief god or whatever, but like, yeah, the main god of that place where his father Terah, was doing all of those things. And then he took he took he he took the hammer and then placed it in front of the bigger god. Ne? So when he did that, obviously when he was busy hammering and doing all of those things, his father could hear a good time and there's some commotion that is happening. And then Abraham placed that hammer in front of the bigger god. And when Abraham's father, Utsera, came in, he was like, what is this? What's happening? Manj, why did you what thing did you do? Yabo? Okay. And then Abraham is like, it's not me. I didn't do anything. See, what happened was I brought a sacrifice to these gods. Ne? But then these smaller gods went on ahead of the bigger god and they wanted to eat the sacrifice before the bigger god. And obviously, this bigger god felt insulted by this. And he took a hammer and beat these other gods, so that he could have the feast all to himself. And I was just here, watching this whole thing. And then Utsara was like, what? Yin lento ishoyo, that is impossible. How can these gods that are made of wood and stone beat each other up like that? How can this god beat the smaller gods? He cannot move, he cannot do anything. He's only wood, he's only stone. How could he possibly do that? You are the only person that could have done this. And Abraham here was like, okay, if that be the case, then why do you worship these gods? You made them with your own hands. They should be worshiping you. But then why do you worship them instead when you yourself have just confessed? Would say they can do nothing for themselves. They can't move. They can't even reach out to eat all the sacrifices that you make for them. So why do you serve them? Why do you worship them instead of seeking the creator of the heavens and the earth, the one who brought the flood? you know and yeah, Abraham said some words, and then yeah, the book of Jasher says, yeah, he ran, he quickly fled because he could see what hey, Obabake is about to do a number on him. So yeah, so these are all the instances, guys. I'm just going to end here for now, but these are the fun facts. And you can see that all of these things that happened, especially that one of destroying those gods of his father, it actually made Abraham to gain favor in the sight of the Lord. He was truly seeking the Lord to know Yahuwah, Elohim, the true God, the creator of the heavens and the earth, the one who brought the flood, the one who needs to be worshipped, who is fearful, and all of those things. And he was truly walking in the ways of God, as it says, from when he was 3 years old, when he started, staying with Noah and Shem. From that very age, he was walking in the ways of the Lord, in his statutes and everything, until the day of his death. Yeah. Today, we are inheriting from that covenant, the everlasting covenant that Abraham got qualified to inherit or to make with uNkulunkulu, that Yahuwah chose Abraham for. So yeah, guys, this is the first part. I believe, yeah, willing, I will come back to you with more of these videos with more interesting information. We're going to talk more about Abraham, Nimrod, and some other things that are really quite interesting that you will not find in the Bible but in other texts. Okay, guys, so please do subscribe to my channel, like this video, share it with everybody, and then see you on the next video. Thank you.